Hi YouTube, what's going on? It's NeverS. We're back with another. Ooh, I'm on the wrong bit. I'm on the wrong tab. We're back with another video, reacting to some Sydney Watson. This time came out. Oh, it's a video from 1 month ago. Okay, well I haven't seen it yet, so and I put it on my watch later list. So link to the original video will be down below. I got some cheese on toast with some tomatoes, so it's lava under lava. Let's go.
Of America, please get me out of this place. I'm tired. I'm losing my tired. I'm tired. I'm tired. I don't want to be a politician. I hate them.
Got the
I will
crazy
never let a
eyes.
white person say the word illegal for the rest of my goddamn life. We are living on stolen land.
All you know how to do is spew your vile hate.
Hang on. Sorry, I gotta do this, but I'm gonna do this in a different window so you guys can't see what I'm doing. Uh, okay, and then I'm gonna go. Just copy the image, maybe go over to Twitter quick over here. Let's just swap it. And show you. So you see that, and then I see that. Yeah. Probably very mean. Didn't mean to be, but you know what? She's kind of deserving it because she's being stupid.
Lying rhetoric.
Like many of you, I am genuinely exhausted.
Yep. Woke fatigue, let's go.
Hi, my name is Sydney. Welcome back to hell. And as per usual, before we launch in, today's video is sponsored by
Ads.
Also Children. I am going on tour in October, doing 9 cities around the United States. I would love
That's
for you
this
to
month.
see me. Tickets will be linked in the description
Don't
box.
come to
and
South
for
Africa.
a limited time, for you early people, you can use the code GONDOLA to get 20% off when you check out. See you there. It's gonna be cool. So I have wanted to make this video for quite a while now, but like similar ones that I've done recently, what has stopped me is the fact that there are 9 billion examples that I could choose from to illustrate my point. It's a little overwhelming. But in the wake of the
That's probably being
insane
conservative,
meltdowns
yeah.
around Sydney Sweeney
Let's
and Billie
maximize.
Eilish and all of the commentary around eugenics and Nazism and white supremacy and the general screaming that we've seen on TikTok, I thought it
Yeah,
was
that you
time
just
to
put us
take it
through.
another
Thanks for
step.
that.
You guys are complaining about that
Oh,
Sydney
not this
Sweeney
one.
Jeans ad, so I went and saw it.
That's Nazi propaganda. Wow.
Yeah, you've got those glasses and the septum piercing. I'm going to disregard your opinion because you know what? You don't need to tell me your political opinions. I already know.
We should have known Sydney Sweeney was a Republican because she's tacky as
This is what we mean when
Sorry.
we say white. That's Nazi propaganda. Wow.
we should have known Sydney Sweeney was a Republican because she's tacky as
Do you own a mirror?
This is what we mean when we say white people and they biases just be jumping out. Because what type of racist shit is that? I don't want to hear now about, well, black people said it wouldn't have been a problem. Anti-blackness has been a global issue since
Oh my god, yes, queen.
forever.
Because at this
She's spitting. Oh, that's a dude. Sorry.
stage, I think that all of us have a little bit of woke fatigue. As with a bunch of other social movements recently too, I think that a huge portion of people have genuinely hit their saturation point. It's me. I'm people. For years, we have been lectured by purple-haired, septum-pierced they-thems.
Dear Mr. President, of fear and division, you're not fit to lead. You belong in a prison.
Yes, nothing says take me seriously like framing your critiques in the form of a nursery rhyme.
Have been named
Dr. Zeus would be proud.
called.
Whose judge are you? Are you our judge?
Absolutely, bitch.
You are?
Shamed.
A toddler was suspended from a nursery after they were accused of being transphobic or homophobic.
How's a toddler trans or homophobic?
And attacked for
But
having a different
that's Britain. They're a different breed up there.
of opinion.
Why are you voting for him? Because I believe he is a moral candidate. Oh my God. F you for that one.
Some people have been
Brilliant argument. Well done.
fired and shunned and socially ostracized or attacked on the internet because they rejected some part of this weird mass delusion that's been going on. They didn't use the right pronoun or they culturally appropriated something.
Pronouns are a weird thing because, like, think about when you talk to or about people. How often do you refer to when you're talking directly to a person? How often do you use the words he or she when talking to that person, about that person? Like, so you're talking to me directly. Are you gonna say, "Hey, that Neburaz," or "Hey, Neburaz, how you doing? I heard he was doing pretty well with this other thing." It's like, dude, why are you talking to me in the third person? I'm right in front of you, right? The only time you ever use a person's pronouns are when you're talking about them in the third person, so they're not even there to hear that you're using the proper pronouns. Like, what? I don't understand pronouns then.
And so I think the word fatigue is just so accurate in describing this crippling exhaustion.
Yeah,
that
but
so
we're in
many
danger
us
of it
are
becoming
feeling
cliche,
towards
to
the
be
current
honest.
social climate. Exhaustion with the relentless militant pressure to conform to a very, very narrow set of social justice values, where every word and every action and even silence is scrutinized for its correctness. It's burnout from a good few
Yeah, well,
decades
silence
of
is
being pressured and
violence, isn't
lectured
it?
into caring about all issues all of the time, all at once. Everything everywhere has been hyper politicized, and for years there has been absolutely no reprieve. Until recently, where apparently we all stopped giving a crap at the exact same time and now just sit back and laugh as these people do insane things and remove themselves from the gene pool. I realize there are a few different ways that you can interpret that last sentence, but I'm referring to the fact that they're just not having kids. But I will let you pick the interpretation that you like best. So this is what I want to talk about
Oh,
today.
she's very
Woke
generous.
fatigue, woke exhaustion, how we got here, how it was accelerated, and really just remind you all of some of the things that you have probably forgotten over the years that were absolutely, completely insane. But before we do that, obviously all of my regular disclaimers, this video is by no means exhaustive. I'm not going to get to and list everything. There's way too much. And actually, when I was planning this video, I jumped on a call with a girlfriend of mine, and together we were just listing out and going through all the things that we could think of associated with this topic and putting those in this video. I maybe got to a third of our list. It was that long. But I've done my best to give you all of the little treasures. So, my listeners and gondola dwellers, before you once again board my hell gondola, and together we revisit some stuff that we probably would rather forget, let's hear from today's sponsor, Fume. Oh, hello, I didn't see you there. I was just telling my friends that are off camera how much I love breathing air. And one day, as I was enjoying a refreshing breathing sesh, as one does, I got to thinking, what if the air I breathed tasted like mangoes? Nay, I said, one cannot breathe in mango air lest one inhale toxic chemicals along with it. But verily, I discovered one can. With Fume. Fume?
Yeah, you can by sniffing mangoes too.
Fume is a flavored air device
But that might just look a bit weird.
that doesn't just give your air a bit of a zip, it's also a way to move away from those pesky bad habits that make your wallet light and your clothes smell like you just left a bar in the 1980s. And more importantly, it's non-addictive, there's no nicotine, no icky chemicals,
is it a
no
vape?
vapor. The thing keeping you coming back to it will be its excellently crafted flavors and fun little fidgety device that keeps the simple monkey part of my brain entertained while I do human brain thinky tasks. Now, you might be asking, is Fume just another fancy pants vape? No, my sweet summer children. Fume ain't about that life. It wants you to be satisfied, healthy, and more importantly, able to breathe without making funny noises. And because our friends at Fume are so good at what they
Darth Vader core.
they've expanded their range to include this little magnetic base and even these cute little mouthpiece toppers. So if you are ready to say goodbye to your bad habit, then click the link in the description, scan the QR code on screen, or go to tryfume.com/Sydney. And don't forget to use code Sydney to get your free fume topper when you order a journey pack. It might feel like wokeness and political correctness.
I don't smoke, so I don't smoke, I don't vape, I don't drink, and I don't do drugs apart from painkillers, which is literally just like maybe one a day for a very particular issue, which I'm not going to go into detail on, but it is opioids, so I am a little bit concerned, but it's only like what, 10 milligrams of codeine phosphate per day. So that's if I'm lucky. Otherwise, it's 20, but it's no more than that.
This is relatively new, but that's actually not the case at all. In the 80s and 90s, political correctness in America was sort of in its first wave. At the time, the term was a way to both describe and criticize progressive efforts to curb the use of offensive language and behavior, particularly on university campuses where, during this time, policies were being enacted to block expression of certain opinions. In 1990, the New York Times published an article titled "The Rising Hegemony of the Politically Correct," where the author wrote that on college campuses there was a breeding ground for a regimented leftist ideology that promoted intolerance, closed debate, and pressured others to conform to a radical program or risk being accused of a commonly reiterated trio of thought crimes: sexism, racism, and homophobia.
Sound familiar, folks? We're talking about 30 plus years ago. And yeah, it's funny. What did he say? Politically correct has become a sarcastic job. Growing, what they see as growing intolerance, which ironically makes them the intolerant ones. And then sexism, racism, and homophobia. We know those ones.
It's been 30 years and nothing really has changed. Around this time, Newsweek...
No, they could see it happening. They'd just be like, nah, it'll be fine. To quote Critical Drinker.
Also published something similar, with its cover image being big bold letters spelling out "Thought Police." In the same year, comedian George Carlin did a series of bits mocking PC language, soft language as he called it, like trading the word handicapped for differently abled, or the word shell shock with post-traumatic stress disorder.
Americans have trouble facing the truth, so they invent a kind of a soft language to protect themselves from it. And it gets worse with every generation. For some reason, it just keeps getting worse. And of course came the war in Vietnam, which has only been over for about 16 or 17 years. And thanks to the lies and deceit surrounding that war, I guess it's no surprise that the very same condition was called post-traumatic stress disorder. Still syllables, but we've added a hyphen. And the pain is completely buried under jargon. Post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah, sounds about right.
If we'd have still been calling it shell shock, some of those Vietnam veterans might have gotten the attention they needed at the time.
All that language...
He's probably right about that too.
Which policing that we've come to know and love, it was really getting started here. But at least comedy was still legal, so, you know, little wins. By the early 2000s, the term PC had become an insult. It was a pejorative, with many arguing that political correctness generally was being used to suppress free speech, but also to suppress differing opinions. Its supporters, on the other hand, said that it was a way to promote tolerance and inclusivity, and that, importantly, nobody had the right to offend without consequences. I am not making that up. That is a direct quote that I found in an article said by a progressive.
I don't know who she was, but she's, if I recall correctly, as I'm thinking of the clip, there was this old British lady, I think in the House of Parliament, and she turned around, she said, "Nobody has the right to go through life without being offended. It is an occupational hazard of living in a society." And yeah, she's quite right. Because the problem is you cannot know what's going to offend somebody. for God's sake, I used to get beat up in school because they didn't like my face or I wore glasses. It's like, dude, why are you ugly, mad that I'm ugly and need glasses? Like, seriously.
Nobody has the right to offend without consequences. Chat, are we screwed? We are so screwed. I mean, with all of this in mind, you can completely see how we ended up where we are today. Suffering and being dictated to by people who think that sex is not an immutable characteristic.
Trans women can be biologically female.
After these
Oh
September
dear God.
11 attacks,
No, they
debates
can't.
over political correctness.
Because if they were biologically female, we'd just call them women and not trans women. That's what I think anyway.
Intensified. Media outlets avoided terms like Islamic terrorism as not to offend Muslims. Conservatives argued that this obfuscated the issue, while progressives argued that this language fueled xenophobia. Words like illegal alien were traded for undocumented migrant. Words like spaz or spastic were deemed offensive, and calling things gay was no longer socially acceptable, much to the chagrin of all of us millennials.
Yep. We used to like, you get killed in a, you're doing a LAN. I remember Quake 3D, or even Duke Nukem 3D. You're on LAN with your brothers, and they kill you, and you're like, man, don't be gay.
Universities and workplaces increasingly adopted diversity training and speech guidelines. The rise of social media platforms like MySpace and Facebook in the early
2007 Windows XP, let's go!
early 2000s began amplifying public discussions and giving activists tools to call out offensive behavior. Soon Reddit and Tumblr followed, and activist communities really started to flourish online. By the way, when I use this voice, this is my quotation voice because you can't see me doing the quotation marks. Just wanted to clear that up. I think I've said this before, but I think a lot of this largely could have been avoided if we just stopped the people on Reddit and Tumblr from ever having access to the internet.
Yeah, but you can't really do that.
On their side of the internet, done a little bit of web segregation. So by the beginning of the 2010s,
So how would you do that though, Sydney? I don't know.
two very distinct camps had emerged. Those who believed that political correctness was a moral necessity, and those who viewed it as a form of censorship and another form of social control.
Now, where political correctness is concerned, I agree with Stephen Fry. He said, his main objection, and it happens to be mine as well, and the reason I went to it is because he explains it far better than I ever could. In fact, let me see if I can pull up the clip quickly. I wish I could go a day without seeing this motherfucker's stupid face. Stephen Fry, political correctness. I don't want the whole damn thing. Is this it? Might be. Skip.
I'm fully aware that many people who choose in agreeing to participate in this debate and stand on this side of the argument, I'm fully aware that many people who choose incorrectly, in my view, to see this issue in terms of left and right, devalued and exploded terms as I think they are, will believe that I am betraying myself and such causes and values that I have espoused over the years.
He's terribly well spoken.
Grief already, simply because I'm standing here next to Professor Peterson, which is the very reason that I am standing here in the first place. I'm standing next to someone with whom I have, differences, shall we say, in terms of politics and all kinds of other things.
Sure.
Precisely because I think all this has got to stop. This rage, resentment, hostility, intolerance. Above all, this with us or against us, certainty. A Grand Canyon has opened up in our world. The fissure, the crack, grows wider every day. Neither on each side can hear a word that the other shrieks, and nor do they want to. While these armies and propagandists in the culture wars clash, down below in the enormous space between the two sides, the people of the world try to get on with their lives, alternately baffled, bored, and betrayed
Nice
all the
alliteration.
noises and explosions that echo all around. I think it's time for this toxic, binary, zero-sum madness to stop
Yeah,
before
I
we
agree.
destroy ourselves.
Well, he's absolutely right about that
I
one.
better nail my colours to the mast before I
Woof,
go
woof,
further.
woof.
It's only polite to give you a sense of where I come from. All my adult life, I have been what you might call a lefty, a soft lefty, a liberal of the most hand-wringing,
Right.
milksop, milk-toast variety. Not a burning man the barricade socialist, not even really
I don't know
a
if you're hearing the
progressive
dogs in the
campaign.
background.
I've been on marches, but I've never quite dared wave placards or banners. Am I a loathed member of that band, an SJW, a social justice warrior? I don't think highly of social injustice, I have to say, but I character myself mostly as a social justice warrior.
Social justice warrior,
Intellectual heroes
as in
growing
worry.
up were Bertrand Russell and G.E. Moore, liberal thinkers, people like that, writers like E.M. Forster. I believed, and I think I still do believe, in the sanctity of human relations, of the primacy of the heart and friendship and love and common interest. These are more personal, interior beliefs than they are political exterior convictions, more a humanistic version of a religious impulse, I suppose. I trust in humanity. I believe in humanity. I think I do, despite all that has happened in the 40 years of my adulthood. I am soft, and I can easily be swept away by harder hearts and harder intellects. I'm sometimes surprised to be described as an activist, but over time I have energetically involved myself with what you might call causes. I grew up knowing that I was gay. Well, in fact, from the very first I knew I was gay. I remember when I was born looking up and saying, that's the last time I'm going out one of those.
Amazing.
I'm Jewish. I'm Jewish, so I have a natural horror of racism. I want racism, misogyny, homophobia, transphobia, xenophobia, bullying, bigotry, intolerance of all humankind to end. That's surely a given amongst all of us.
Yeah,
The question is,
he's
how
right
such
about
a
that.
golden aim is to be achieved. My ultimate objection to political correctness is not
Yeah,
that it
this is the
combines
part I
so
wanted to
much
get
of
to.
what I have spent a lifetime loathing and opposing, preachiness, with great respect, piety, self-righteousness, heresy hunting, denunciation, shaming, assertion without evidence, accusation, inquisition, censoring. That's not why I'm incurring the wrath of my fellow liberals by standing on this side of the House. My real objection is that I don't think political correctness works.
Exactly.
I want to get to the Golden Hill, but I don't think that's the way to get there. I believe one of the greatest human failings is to prefer to be right than to be effective.
And one of the big problems with people today is that they will be wrong, that you can prove to them that they're wrong, and they will double down. And I would rather be proven wrong. I will take it on the chin and do better next time.
And political correctness is always obsessed with how right it is without thinking of how effective it might be. I wouldn't class myself as a classical libertarian.
So that's my issue. He everything he said there is pretty much where I'm at, where political correctness is concerned. And he explains that the reason I showed that clip is he explains it far better than I ever could. I think he's terribly well spoken, and I really enjoy listening to him. Him and Christopher Hitchens, whether I agree with their points or not, I actually just listen to them to learn how to be articulate and how to actually speak. So very good, very good. Go check them out. Back to Sydney, talking about political correctness. We'll go back just a bit to see.
Those who believed that political correctness was a moral necessity, and those who viewed it as a form of censorship and another form of social control. And then, like basically all of these movements, everything went to hell. And it was probably here that the foundation of the coming fatigue started for the majority of us. You know, considering a lot of us were children up until this point, and I distinctly remember running around the playground saying that everything was gay. You know.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I remember even back in primary school, this was in like the mid 90s. You know, you're walking down the hall, you're going to class, and someone bumps into you. You call him a retard. He swears your mother. You just keep on going, and that was the end of it. It wasn't that we called each other retards and stuff like that in order to shame or slur or, in other ways, denigrate people for who are actually retarded. You know, I don't want to call them challenged because that sounds even worse to my ears, but you know, the we didn't do it as a means of denigrating them. It was to highlight a level of stupidity. It was to highlight um, you're being dumb. Like you're being stupid, or you said something stupid, so I'm going to call you a retard. You're also less likely to get a clip around the ear from your parents for calling someone a retard than you were for calling them a fucking idiot. Okay, so that's how retard ended up being used so widely, at least in my experience. And now we're told it's a slur, and you can't say that, and you can actually be banned from certain platforms for using it. And same with referring to people as gay, although these days that's not actually much of an insult, honestly.
Us Aussie kids grew up during this period of time, and we had fads that were a cigarette lolly, as you do. Actually, speaking of lollies, we used to be able to get these things called yogurt buds, which were like little buds of yogurt, and I miss them so much, and I have not been able to find them anywhere. Someone find me yogurt buds, please.
In 2014, the term
Most of the
woke,
sweets
which
I
had been
grew up with
used
are gone
mainly
now
by
as
Black
well.
Americans to refer to awareness around racial issues, had been repurposed to describe a hyper-vigilant social justice mindset. Around this time, too, we also had the term SJW, or social justice warrior, and you all know what that is.
You know, I'm not gonna lie, I was never really a massive fan of the term social justice warrior, given that the vast majority of these people, if they're fighting anything, it's their own mental illness. You know, I think calling them warriors is a form of internet stolen valor, you know? Like, this is why they think they're soldiers.
Actually, yeah, maybe it sort of gave them a big head. I don't know.
Of the progressive left.
Like Stephen Fry said, instead of warrior, it should be warrior. You know, like worry too much.
Except, like, all it takes to defeat them is asking the last time their dad hugged them.
Anyway, social media platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram turbocharged this shift, making activism instantaneous and public, allowing terms like privilege, microaggressions, and cultural appropriation to spread.
We can now say microaggressions. Now what?
Here's some other examples of microaggressions.
I guess I'm still learning how to deal with microaggressions.
The majority of the microaggressions that I've experienced in my life are related to being half Japanese.
Hashtags made issues.
Microaggressions. What's a microaggression for me? Not coming up with anything. I mean, I get it. Like sometimes I'll be cooking eggs. I prefer my eggs sunny side up or over easy with a soft runny yolk. But so maybe a microaggression is when the yolk bursts or it overcooks and becomes hard. But it's really more of a minor inconvenience, not a microaggression. Like, I think people use the term used because I don't hear it used very often anymore. I think people used to use the term as a means of like, oh, you said something mean to me, so I can hit back harder and more personal, and it's justified because you attacked first. It was used as an excuse just to be nasty, really.
Viral, but they also created pressure to publicly align with progressive causes.
Not a pressure I ever felt.
The death of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, and the rise of BLM, social media exploded with calls to check your privilege or call out racism. Non-participation, such as not tweeting #BLM, was seen as complicity and a sign-off on police brutality.
So back when George Floyd was killed, I remember I reposted the famous quote by Desmond Tutu that says, if you're neutral in situations of injustice, you're siding with the oppressor.
Maybe don't get your political and ethical cues from someone who was trained by Russian communists in how to destroy a nation. Yeah.
Making this video reminded me.
And I'm South African, Desmond Tutu's South African, so I think I know a little bit more about the guy than she does.
About all of the cops who were kneeling during the BLM protests, and all the white people who were doing those struggle sessions, basically, where they were washing black people's feet or gathering in circles to, like,
you couldn't pay me enough.
Apologize to them. Do you guys remember this stuff?
We know he no longer can be here. In honor of his legacy, we're not rioting, God. We're not saving it.
Pathetic. Wow, I didn't know about that.
But more importantly, what
the mid-2010s brought about the rise of the trans movement, gender ideology.
What the fuck? 2S LGBTQI+. What the hell is that?
As we know it today, fat acceptance, and the massive, crazy expansion of the LGBTQIA XYZ all of which brought about their own set of rules and regulations around language, self-ID, and their own activist classes.
Which I have talked about in other dedicated videos to those topics at length.
We're not watching
so
those.
I'm not going to rehash that here, but just know that through all of this, all of that was happening, and with the pronouns and the transing of the kids and the people identifying as toaster strudels. But those videos are
what the hell?
More in depth, so I will link them in the description box if you are interested in the timeline of how we all got over the LGBT movement and the trans movement. Anyway, wokeness soon became the cultural expectation, with terms like toxic masculinity and white privilege and white fragility making...
Do you know where white privilege actually originated? It was from some old British biddy who decided that it was a privilege to have useless shit like a band-aid being the same color as your skin. And in some cases, a band-aid being a different color than your skin is really, really helpful, so that if it falls into a pot of food, you can easily identify it. That's why in professional kitchens, chefs will wear colored plasters, whilst the front of house staff will typically wear white plasters. Or band-aids. Plaster, band-aid, same thing. But yeah, so that's where white privilege came from. Totally useless crap is what it originated as.
Their way into general public mainstream discourse.
This is something I've thought about a lot and something I've spoken about a lot. There's too much of toxicity. It's masculine toxicity out there.
Even the term white fragility can like really set a lot of people off and saying, what do you mean I'm fragile? You know, like this is offensive. And
so change it from white fragility to black, Latin, Indian, Native American, Indian, you know, change it from white to literally anything else. And tell me it's not offensive. Sorry. If it, as I've said before, if all I have to do is change one word to make it offensive, then it's offensive regardless of what that word is.
And so it's almost ironic that the term is kind of self-evocative in that way.
White people are racist, and not because they are evil, but because they were raised in racist systems, rewarded by racism, and defended by systems built on it. You are not the exception just because you are nice. You are the product. And when the system gets challenged, fragility explodes.
Here's a test for white fragility. I came across some questions for white fragility that
I'm going to have a fucking aneurysm with this lot.
White fragility is a hindrance to open and honest racial conversations.
Yeah, so when we talk about why black women have like 12 kids across 3 baby daddies, you're not ready to have that conversation. And like, so we talk about why black women have 12 kids across like 3 baby daddies, and that's why she's struggling financially, because the baby daddies are deadbeats and they don't keep up with child support. They've got no factor in the children's lives. But somehow we want to talk about white people as an issue, and we got to have a honest conversation about racial issues regarding that. But when we talk about the habits of people like you, well, not her specifically, but you know what I mean, then you're not ready to have that conversation. Why? Because you expect white people to be accountable, but not black people, or anybody else for that matter. And these days, actually, it seems I was called racist and all kinds of things because of the Carmelo Anthony thing. I looked at the information that was on hand and whatnot, and I still believe he should do life in prison. Apparently that makes me racist, and I'm sorry, but if holding somebody accountable for their actions makes one racist, then you know what? It's a badge I will wear. And it's funny how I'm a racist for holding black people accountable, in the case of Carmelo Anthony specifically, but when like these people, for example, they want accountability from white people, and that's not racist. So, well, I suppose if it wasn't for double standards, these people wouldn't have any anyway.
Policing was also taking place. In 2015, for example, for Halloween, Yale University emailed its students asking them to be thoughtful about the cultural implications of their costumes. When a professor responded by questioning this, both her husband was threatened by students and she was borderline asked.
Is there no room anymore for a child or young person to be a little bit obnoxious, a little bit inappropriate, or provocative, or yes, offensive? American universities were once a safe space.
To resign. And it wasn't long before this was happening every Halloween, with people writing entire instruction manuals on how to properly dress to avoid cultural appropriation or causing offense.
Joe Henry of the League of United Latin American Citizens has some examples of what not to do.
When you have costumes of people who appear to be Latino wearing sombreros, people who are dressed up to look as if they're African Americans, but they're not. That is offensive.
Sorry, I want to just look up something quickly. I'll do it in a new window again. There was a movie I watched a couple years back. I forget what it was called, but there was a character, or it's a I was thinking, what was the movie called? No, that wasn't it. Whatever. Anyway, I was thinking for like Halloween, Mexico has the Dia de Muertos, and I was wondering like what better to go to dress up in Halloween for than a Mexican death god or representation of death. I don't necessarily see that as cultural appropriation, especially if you're not Mexican. There's you can view it in two ways: cultural appropriation or flattery. And imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. So you know, if it's done well and respectfully and true to the law, then I would see it as flattery.
My culture is not a costume.
Bucknell University even started a campaign called My Culture is Not Your Costume to raise awareness of the problematic nature of certain Halloween costumes.
We hate fun.
The idea of cultural appropriation at this point was very alive and well, with everything.
When someone takes elements from a culture not their own and remakes it and reduces it, you see there's your clincher. You can take it and honor it, and it's not cultural appropriation. That is exactly what I just said. If you're true to the law and do it respectfully and do it well, you're not reducing nothing. So the reduction comes in people's perception of it, especially people who make crap like this. That's where the clincher comes in.
Being policed, from hairstyles to dress
styles
to...
That's stunning. I love that. There's nothing wrong with that. Clearly she's not American Indian, but this is gorgeous. I think she's done a brilliant job. This honors it.
Music people were or were not allowed to produce.
And in this whole time, this whole 11 years that I've had my hair locked up, nobody said anything about
me culturally appropriating. In 11 years,
Glasses, septum piercing, and the blue hair.
that's so sus. Why didn't anybody tell me anything? I'm so glad for TikTok because you're saying it like it is. I mean, and I've done all my own research, but everywhere it's like, why white people, why white people, why white people can't have dreadlocks. And I was like, I'm not white. I mean, I'm part white, but maybe that's why
You're
people haven't
white.
said anything, because they're like, she looks a little culturally ambiguous. I'm just gonna leave it.
Like, what's an acceptable number of braids we can wear in our hair without it being cultural appropriate?
One. Like this one.
Darling, your hair is cultural appropriation because braids were originally worn by Scandinavians. As far as I know, anyway.
I think that's acceptable.
Whenever I see these
I don't care what you think is acceptable, darling.
kinds of videos, I always think, well, I'm gonna braid my hair even harder now. There's also
Yes,
something
I would do
stupid
as well.
and arrogant and entitled about claiming an entire hairstyle that is present and has been present in cultures around the planet forever, basically. I mean, as long as we're talking about cultural appropriation, I had no idea that women who were, not Caucasian could have blonde, straight hair. That's crazy. How did you grow that yourself?
By 2016, NFL players.
Well, for that matter, yeah. Like, how many blonde Asians have you seen who are naturally blonde? I suppose it's more common now with the introduction of Caucasian genetics into the Japanese gene pool and whatnot. But purebred Japanese, that is to say, a child born of a Japanese mother and father, most likely going to have black hair and straight. I wish I had hair like theirs.
Colin Kaepernick was kneeling for the national anthem to protest racial inequality. By 2018, Nike had partnered with him with the performative slogan, "Believe in something, even if it means..."
Hang on. Want to check this out. Colin Kaepernick net worth. Around $20 million to $25 million as of late 2024. Yeah, nothing says inequality like being a millionaire.
Means sacrificing everything.
I wish we could get rid of these rich assholes protesting shit on our behalf. Like, we don't protest it because, you know what, we're too busy trying to actually make ends meet. You're rich, you have the free time to go out and protest shit.
On images with his face. Soon other sports people followed suit, and many of them took a knee. Okay, all right, guys. Eventually, the involvement of politics in sports led to teams like the Indians and the Washington Redskins changing their names to avoid being racially insensitive to Native Americans. But 2020
I wonder how Native Americans feel about that.
Onwards is where things went totally haywire, and honestly, for these movements and ideologies, I think it signaled the beginning of the end. Probably a combination of being locked inside one's own house, becoming fearful of sneezing, too much time alone, too much time on the internet, and the rise of TikTok. A lot of people went a little bit cuckoo-cuckoo.
After George Floyd's death, I'm having so much trouble saying that. George Floyd, after he died, people went absolutely mad, and quite frankly, that's putting it mildly.
Anyone saying Black Lives Matter too? 11, that's how many times I can't breathe, 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 I can't breathe.
Oh my God, shut up.
Eric Garner said I can't breathe before he was killed by police. So I guess those 3 words only mean stop if you're white.
I want to remind you all that politicians were crying over this guy's golden casket. I'm just, stop the world. I want to get off. This period of time gave us fiery but mostly peaceful reporting and wide-scale justification for civil unrest from politicians and others.
Fiery but mostly peaceful. Arson is not a... Do you know arson will get you... I think arson is a felony in most states. So that right there, we're seeing felonies over there.
The talking heads. June 2020 gave us Blackout Tuesday, when people posted black squares on Instagram to show solidarity with BLM. It also gave us a bunch of these videos of like mainly white
Cringe.
girls painting black fists on their face because, I mean, like, you know.
Hang on. Did that say no freedom until we're equal? Yeah, no freedom until we're equal. So how equal do you want to be? Like, do you want them on your level, in which case you got to raise the floor, or do you want you on their level, or in which case you got to drop the ceiling? I think we're already equal, and I think the disparity comes in that people don't take advantage of the opportunities they have, limited as they may be. They still have those opportunities.
Black fists on their face because, I mean, like, you know.
Super cringe, man.
University campuses were definitely still in meltdown mode, but, you know, honestly, it seems like
just one sec.
Take a break from that.
Trigger warnings, which were already extremely common in academia, became ubiquitous in 2020 across social media, classrooms, and workplaces. Professors began prefacing their lectures with warnings for topics like racism or violence. We even had news outlets giving us lists of problematic movies that need warning labels, like Forrest Gump and Indiana Jones.
Forrest Gump I can see, but, you know, it reflects a different time.
And I am not joking. Forrest Gump is a big no-no because it has AIDS in it.
I'm sick.
What, do you have a cough due to cold?
It was
the Indiana Jones one is because it doesn't accurately depict Hindus and Indians.
It wasn't supposed to.
So soft. I think it's really fun that like Dirty Harry and Forrest Gump are on this list, but not movies like Tropic Thunder. They just don't make sense.
No, and then and then the same people complaining about maybe Forrest Gump and Indiana Jones, they will defend a show like Cuties.
It's like that anymore.
I'm a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude.
Honestly, the softness and the squishiness and the desire to be offended by everything is part of what makes wokeness so incredibly exhausting. It's always about managing one's feelings and validating people's individual truths and ignoring universally accepted facts.
And those same people will not respect your feelings or anything like that. They want it from you, but they were not prepared to give it. That's what bothers me the most.
Everything is about avoiding offense and ensuring that you think about the feelings of complete strangers, lest they feel wounded or sad. Unfortunately, I am not Willy Wonka, and I don't have to sugarcoat reality. This insane overemphasis on feelings was and is to the extent that universities like the University of Utah had cry closets for students overwhelmed by stress, and safe spaces expanded to protect against ideological discomfort. This even applied to free speech zones on campus where one could go to actually have, you know, well, free speech. Because I guess the rest of the campus, they weren't allowed. Companies rolled out diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives en masse.
Understanding what it means to be white. Challenging what it means to be racist, because the two are mutual, the two are like, the two go together, they're inseparable, right? It's funny how by Robin DiAngelo, with Robin DiAngelo. Who's Robin DiAngelo? I want to see something. Robin DiAngelo. Oh dear Lord. I'm sorry I looked. Yeah.
With trainings like Coca-Cola's 2021 Be Less White session, with some companies using the book White Fragility, like Coca-Cola did, as a teaching reference. I think it's...
You see, but hang on. Let me just go back there. Robin DiAngelo. Karen! Tell me the glasses, her hairstyle, Karen. She's a Karen. So all this crap perpetuated by Karens. Asmongold is right. Every problem in the world is incels and Karens.
Worth saying that the anti-white rhetoric that has grown and metastasized over the years is honestly pretty staggering. And if I think about it too much, it's quite distressing to consider that it's made its way into basically every area of cultural and social life, like academia and...
So I was in the shop the other day, and this black dude, these black women just squeezed through the entire line of people to cut in front. And you should be able to call that out, right? You should be able to tell them, no, bugger off, get back to the back of the line. I've been standing in this line for the last 10 minutes. What makes you so special you can come in and kick me, just cut in front of me and go through? But I don't feel like I can, because then it's oh, you're racist, you're white supremacist, blah, 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 blah. I shouldn't have to feel like that when confronting people who are doing actual wrong. It might be a minor inconvenience in the grand scheme of things, but it still takes a gigantic dump all over the time I've spent standing in the damn line.
Politics and entertainment and what have you. And it's all done under the guise of equity and inclusion and righting age-old historical wrongs.
Often with modern day wrongs. Yeah.
My Irish ancestors were slaves. I would like some reparations too, please.
Yeah, my ancestors were put into concentration camps by the British, facing conditions that made the Holocaust look tame. Yeah, I would like some reparations too, please.
In honor of this, white people, stitch this. How many white people...
I make it my personal business to have complex conversations about race with any and all white people that I encounter. Period.
Somewhere
Do you see the narcissism?
along this road too, especially
It's not just
with
me.
TikTok becoming extremely popular, we've seen the rise of self-diagnosed mental illness. The term neurodivergent went mainstream, which mostly referred to autism and ADHD, and it gained traction on platforms like TikTok, where users self-diagnosed and demanded accommodations for these conditions.
I have never been diagnosed.
Flexibility.
I was diagnosed with ADHD like 30 years ago, but that's about it.
Using their conditions as an excuse to shrug off adulthood and evade responsibility in so many cases. People started collecting labels like they were personality points, non-binary, disabled, neurodivergent, polyamorous, and became offended if others didn't properly adhere to them. And having this perpetually offended class meant that so many things were off limits.
Oh, good lord.
Humor and comedy.
I find this offensive, to be honest. My eyes are very much offended. I'm looking away now.
Kind of fully been replaced by political activism. Late night hosts and their performance.
So, from what I know about neurodivergence is I'm neurodivergent, but I never used it as an excuse or a reason to misbehave, behave badly, or not to do things. My parents were, my mom's like early Gen X, my dad's a late baby boomer, and you can imagine I never had the chance to actually, if I stepped out of line, they'd put a foot up my ass, you know, so that's how I grew up. So I don't think people who are truly neurodivergent and like, I don't think they use it as a crutch to beat people with, or rather as a club to beat people with and a crutch to avoid actually doing things and being adults, like Sydney said. I think they just want to get on with their lives as best they can, despite the neurodivergence.
Became almost entirely about dunking on Donald Trump or criticizing the right wing.
Ugh, Trevor Noah.
Were cancelled for jokes and are cancelled for jokes, like my friend Isaac Butterfield, who is in Australia, who was brought before the Australian Human Rights Commission because he offended someone who wasn't even at his show. Television shows that were once fun and edgy have been sanitized. Actors and comedians have made massive attempts to distance themselves from their past works that would be seen as offensive by today's standards. Even YouTubers like Jenna Marbles have left the internet.
Is that Jenna Marbles? The years were not kind.
Previous jokes, and she did this because she just didn't want to hurt people.
Suddenly, everything from 2020 onwards, or maybe even earlier, had to have this social justice hyper-political edge. And the irony is, only certain types of opinions were allowed to be expressed. While also simultaneously, everyone has to have an opinion about everything and express that opinion because silence is violence? Do you guys also remember those articles that argued that speech is violence?
because I do. This gave rise to hyper-exhausting political advertising, with companies insisting on making a statement about everything and anything they could. Transgenderism, obesity, gender identity, racism, identity politics. And baked into all of this is this insufferable lack of nuance. Everything to the progressive left seems to be black and white. There is no shade of grey, there is no room for nuance. Either it is or it isn't, and if it's not, you're a Nazi.
And what you'll find as you grow up in life is more often grey than it is black or white.
To these people, a statement in the affirmative means that the inverse is true. If I say that I like apples, that means that I have to hate pears. I don't actually like pears, and I do like apples, but watermelon's fine. And cantaloupe. And so this...
Like, if you like chocolate ice cream, you hate vanilla. Never mind that vanilla is pretty much the basis for all other flavors of ice cream, so...
This is basically where we are now with this wokeness explosion. Language has no meaning because every meaningful word has been watered down. Bigot, Nazi, xenophobe, homophobe, sexist, misogynist,
I've been called a racist because I said I like white chocolate over dark chocolate.
etc. Terms applied so liberally to anyone who even slightly deviates from this extremely narrow social justice path. And every word you say now could be a potential crime. You can't say homeless, you have to say unhoused, otherwise you're being insensitive. You can't...
I'm remembering a Billy Connolly skit where he was like, you can't call them waiters anymore, you gotta call them a wait person. No. He's like, what? It's a fucking waiter! It's not a wait person! That's why you have fucking personhole covers in the street! Fuck you! It's a manhole cover! Fuck off! And if you want to be called ask some other fucker, because I'm not doing it.
Say illegal alien, you have to say undocumented migrant, otherwise you're being xenophobic. You can't say crazy or moron or any other words associated with people being stupid, because that might be ableist. And you're expected to remember all of these terms, all of the new terms, all of these pronouns, lest you offend somebody. And then there's all of this woke cultural guilt tripping. If you are tied to Western culture, or for these people worse yet, you are a white person, you're supposed to feel shame and embarrassed for your ancestors. Because it's all about decolonizing and unlearning your heritage.
Nope, I feel absolutely no shame or anything because I had fuck all to do with it. I neither had any part of apartheid, and I didn't have a part in starting it. I didn't have a part in ending it because I was 7 years old and unable to vote then. So I didn't have anything to do with apartheid, and I'm not going to take the responsibility, and I'm not going to take any sort of shame or accountability for what people who died long before I was born did.
Everything from hiking to gardening to breathing clean air has been labeled white supremacy. We've even been told that it's not possible to be racist towards white people.
Once again, if what you're saying to a white person would be offensive if it is said to a black person, or racist if it is said to a black person, or anybody else for that matter, it is racist to a white person. Sorry, that's the fact.
They even invented this term, reverse racism, as if that's somehow its own thing. Western culture has been designated as a movement of colonization and evil and hatred. Meanwhile, every other culture is celebrated and respected. We're told that places like the United States, for example, is the worst country on the planet, and yet everybody seems to be desperate to get in and nobody ever leaves.
Yeah, despite how much they claim. But like Thomas Sowell said, what multiculturalism boils down to is that you can praise any culture except white culture, and you can, well, he said Western culture specifically. So you can praise any culture except Western culture, and you can't blame any culture except Western culture. That's what multiculturalism is.
And these corrosive political viewpoints have made their way into everything. You want to watch a movie? No. It has to be diverse, representative, and inclusive. TV shows, ads, even video games now come with a side of social justice messaging. You can't enjoy anything without it turning into a lecture.
He played Matthew in Downton Abbey, didn't he? I didn't even know he was in that.
Netflix to cereal brands.
Politics is shoved into every corner of life, and it's hard to find a moment just to breathe.
Yeah.
So it's really no wonder that everybody is exhausted. The funny thing about this is that I am sure that some of this started with the best of intentions.
Yeah, just like the way to hell. The road to hell is paved with best intentions.
That these bleeding hearts and progressives did want to create a better world, especially for people who they viewed as a minority or underrepresented.
Yeah,
But really,
that's
as
fine.
this
I don't have a problem
thing
with that.
has grown and changed and become what it is today, all they've really done is fractured and divided people, creating victim groups and driving the rest of us away. Any goodness that could have come about as a result of these ideologies has been squashed, and people who might ordinarily have been amenable to them have been driven away. So obviously there is so much more that I could potentially say about this, but we simply don't have the time. We would be here for 1,000 years. So let me leave you with a final little thing.
And that would be a very big video.
I believe that most people within the same culture who have the same values will be decent to one another when left to our own devices. I don't think, by and large, that we need all of these initiatives and political and social ideas to force us into submission. I think a lot of people deep down are good people. They are decent people, and they want to be decent people out in the world. But forcing us to be constantly aware of all of our differences in the long run probably doesn't make for a very cohesive society. So
no, I agree with that.
All of the progressive screaming, the political correctness, the wokeness, the language policing, the thought policing, all these initiatives have achieved is pushing people further away and ensuring that these very same people will never ever participate in these ideologies again or ever. Now, on that note, and before I open the floor to all of you, this is just a reminder to check out Fume using the link in the description. They've
if you smoke or vape
of this channel, and I'm very fond of them, so if this is something that you struggle with, absolutely check them out. Now, I open the floor to all of you. What do you all think? Are you on my side of this issue where you two are just fatigued and tired by all of this? You're so sick of all of the political, social, cultural messaging on so many issues? Are you on the other side of this, where you are glad that there is this wokeness that is permeating society? Do you think it's a good thing that we are so fixated on some of these issues? Do you think it's a good thing that we police language and people's behavior? Do you think it's a bad thing that all of this is censorship and social control? What do you think of the examples that I've given in this video? Did you forget some of these things happened? Do you think that the things that did happen were good and actually it, was a net positive for society? And what do you generally make of this issue overall? As always, if you have made it this far in the video, congratulations. I always like having you along for the full ride. If you are new here and you are not subscribed already and you would like to see more of me and more of this kind of content, feel free to subscribe to the channel as well as leaving this video a like and a comment because I do read the majority of them and I like hearing your feedback. Of course, I hope you wonderful little chicken feet stay safe and well and make good choices, because those are important. And I will see your wonderful little heads in the next video.
So that was a lot. But yeah, like Stephen Fry said, my problem with wokeness, actually, my big problem with with what you would call woke is often it's not even your average Joe who's raising the issues and whatever, probably because a lot of people think that nobody's going to listen to your average Joe. But it's like the Colin Kaepernicks, it's the Emma Watsons, it's the Hollywood elite that tend to bring up these issues and make mountains out of the molehills. Like, yes, there are genuine issues, I think, but a lot of them, and a lot of what wokeness has done is sought to overcorrect. I think in many cases, particularly with the LGBT community, especially where trans men are concerned, such like Leah Thomas, and there's a couple others whose names escape me, but like, you shouldn't be able to identify, you shouldn't be a serial rapist being able to identify into a female prison, that causes its own breed of problems, and I think that the overcorrection on a lot of the issues, and that's where it tends to go. They highlight a problem and then they just overcorrect. There's no sort of measured or gradual correction. We've got to fix it now. We've got to deal with it right now. And oftentimes it's actually exclusive to other people who are not affected by the problem. So, for example, you have South Africa apartheid had the majority of white people. You know, people claimed that black folks couldn't get work. Well, guess what? 30 years later, nobody can get work because we got the highest unemployment in the world. But that's beside the point. So the idea was white people had all the wealth during apartheid in South Africa. Now, instead of empowering the black majority to build their own wealth, what empowerment does is it takes from the white people. In terms of like the broad-based black economic empowerment and employment equity, wherein it says explicitly that it is fair to discriminate against people on the basis of race, alluding specifically to business. So I'm not, as a white male, I am not counted in the protected classes under the Employment Equity Act. Therefore, I can literally go to any job and they can turn around and say, sorry, you're white, we're not going to hire you. I think that's a massive overcorrection. And now we've got the Employment Equity Amendment Act where it says 50 people, companies with 50 plus people must hire 93% black, and the remaining 7% is Indian and mixed race. And so where does that leave white and Asian people in search of employment in South Africa? It's a massive overcorrection, and it seeks to take away from one demographic and give it to another. And I think, and that's a real world example, but that's what I mean, and that there's overcorrection, it's not measured, it's not calculated, it's not done properly, and it causes more problems than it solves. But anyway, that's going to do it for this video. Hope you've enjoyed. Link to the original video will be down below, as I said, and I'll include the monk debate one as well with Stephen Fry there if you want to listen to that. I thought that Dyson guy really did himself really acquitted himself poorly in that debate. I'd have gotten up and punched him, honestly. But yeah, that's going to do it for this one. See you guys in the next one. Take care, and remember to try to have an open mind with things. You never know who's going to teach you something. Anyways, take care, everybody. Goodbye.